Welcome to Connect. I'm Cio Hernandez, and on today's program we're talking about probation. You might have heard of probation or had some thoughts about it, but for most of us it's a topic we know little about. We start with Mike Daly, Chief of the Department of Probation for the County of Marin.
A legal definition is a suspension of the imposition or execution of a sentence and the revocable release of that person to the probation officer into the community. That's a lot of legal jargon for saying this person is not going to go to state prison and we're going to dispose of this case locally. The person may serve some time in the Marin County Jail. However, during the terms and conditions of probation, they will have conditions of probation they have to fulfill. That's an agreement that they adhere to in lieu of going to state prison. So that's what we do. One of our primary responsibilities in the community is to provide effective supervision. One of the misconceptions about the field of probation is that we're viewed as social workers. That's not the truth. We have all peace officer powers and can take people into custody if necessary. The other piece that we do is kind of a social work component where we're trying to effect behavior change. So we're not fully social workers. We're not all law enforcement. We're right down the middle. Really what we're about here is protecting the community and rehabilitating the offender. But every study will show you that you have to form a relationship with that person that you're attempting to rehabilitate in order for them to effect behavior change. It does mean that we have to create a relationship with them in order for them to trust us so they can make these necessary changes in their life. This is a very difficult population to deal with and effect behavior change. Behavior change is something that has to happen in order for these people to be productive and members of society. All of us have New Year's resolutions. I want to lose weight. I want to work out more. And, you know, we have good support systems. We have good jobs. We have nice homes. And sometimes we fail at that. Now, when you start to talk to somebody about changing their behavior and they have learning disabilities, they have emotional issues, they have drug and alcohol issues, impulsivity issues, they have a lot of things stacked up against them and a lack of family and community support, it's very difficult to effect behavior change. Throughout this conversation, we have been talking about behavior change. The last key responsibility for the Chief Probation Officer is to operate the county's Juvenile Hall. The Juvenile Hall, located off Lucas Valley Road in San Rafael, is a secure detention facility for minors arrested for crimes in the community. The superintendent of Juvenile Hall is Steve Blair. The facility holds up to 40 minors at a time, but our average daily population is just a little over 20, mostly males. All minors in Juvenile Hall are provided meals, medical care, mental health services if needed, school, recreation, and programming that supports positive behaviors. The Juvenile Hall also has visitation hours twice a week for parents to see their children. The Juvenile Hall is inspected by many state and local government agencies to ensure its compliance with Titles 15 and 24 of the California Code of Regulations. We pride ourselves with having an excellent staff, a low population, excellent schooling and programming for our minors to re-enter the community a better person. I've said for a long time now that a rehabilitated person is no longer a public safety threat.
Teresa Torrence-Tillman is the Director of the Adult Services Division in the Marin County Probation Department.
No two people are alike and no crime is the same. You know, there's mitigating factors, you know, something that kind of explains it away or makes it not quite so bad, and there are other things that make it horrific. And so our job is to determine where it fits in that field and then make a recommendation to the court of what the sentence should be, low, middle, or high, and what conditions of probation they should have if they get probation that will help them turn their life around. And if there are victims involved, you know, what is owed to the victim and what they need to do to try to make the victim whole. So that's our investigative part. Those people who don't go to prison get placed on probation. And so then we have supervision deputies who supervise these people for the amount of time that the court has placed them on probation. We're not office bound anymore. We used to have so many cases, and it was the standard way that most probation departments worked. You come in to see me as the probationer, and we go over what you're doing, and I tell you what you need to do, and then you go out, whatever, and you come back later. We might do a UA to make sure you're not using drugs. But now we do it different. If you're high risk, we're seeing you in your home. We're seeing you on your job, if it's not going to cause you problems on your job. We might meet you at a cafe or a coffee shop or out at the park. We're just out in the community. So your PO might roll up on you at any time, not to catch you being bad, but to catch you being good. Because we're not out to lock people up. We just want to be supportive and help them do what they need to do. We have medium risk deputies who see people who aren't quite as high risk, and we see them here in the office and occasionally out in the community. So we're providing a higher level of service to the probationers, and by going out in the community, we're also providing services to their families, because most of our probationers do have families. They're either married or they're living with their parents, and what they've done and what they do affects those people who are in their lives. And so we try to make bonds with both the defendants and, well, probationers and their family. We're the best kept secret. When you say probation officer, nobody really knows what probation is. They may see some articles in the paper or whatever, you know, but our probation department is not the same as Sonoma County's or San Francisco's. And what we are, we're social workers, we're law enforcement, we're therapists, and I think people are used to things being more cut and dry. You know, if you're law enforcement, then you arrest them, you book them, and they go to jail. You get them off the streets. If you're a social worker, people sometimes see that as you're being enabling, you know, or whatever. And it's not that we're being enabling, but we try to address the needs that the probationers have to make them not victimize the community, their families, or themselves. And it's not really, you know, cut and dry. It's not, you gave me a positive result on your urinalysis test. And so that was showing me that you're using methamphetamine. So some people would say, lock them up. Well, what's the point of locking them up? They have a drug problem. What we need to do is get them to not use drugs. We're doing a therapeutic approach, but we're also doing the law enforcement approach. We're holding them accountable. And when they refuse to be accountable, then that's when we take it to the next level. So I think what happens with the public is they see things cut and dry. And what we do is not cut and dry. We're about changing the way people think. There was a saying, you know, as a man thinketh, so he becomes. So, you know, you are who you think you are. And if you think you're nobody, if you're worthless, then you'll behave that way. And what we're about is trying to change the way people think about themselves. We want them to think that they are valuable, that they are capable, that they have something to give, and that they're lovable. And you can't do that overnight. And you can't do it, you know, on a shoestring. So that's what we're working on now, is trying to help our probationers change the way they think. You know, if you're hanging around with a bunch of people on the street corner planning your next car burglary, then we want you to start hanging around with different people. And the way to do that is to get you to start thinking differently about that behavior. And if we could get the community at large, and just not Marin County, but the whole country, to understand what probation is about, that we're about helping people change their lives for the better, not locking them up, not letting them get away with things, that, you know, I think they would understand that, you know, if you're a person who's on probation, who's totally dysfunctional, and you're married and you have kids, your dysfunctionality is going to affect your children. They're not going to do well in school. They're probably going to start using substances because they're trying to deal with it. But if we can help you change your behavior, then that's going to have a positive impact on your children, on your spouse, and on your community.
Probation deals with both adults and youth. Darnell Rory is the director of our Division of Juvenile Services for our County of Marin's Probation Department.
I think some of the misconceptions that our youth believe in is that my probation officer is out, again, to find me doing something wrong. If I have to meet with my probation officer, if they want to get in contact with me, if they call looking for me, I'm in trouble. You know, it's just, you know, we've all felt it when we're in school and the principal sends you a note to class, you know, what did I do wrong this time? And, you know, so I think that's a sense of misconception of a lot of the youth and also parents, that if I'm in communication with my probation officer, I must have done something wrong. I want our youth and our families to know that they can utilize us as a resource. We're connected with housing, with employment, with the schools, and if we have a kid who's having a difficult time with their parents and communicating, relating, whatever situation may be, that they can pick up the phone and call their probation officer and say, hey, this isn't working. Can someone help me out? Can I come and talk to you? There is opportunity for everyone. And what we, express to the youth that we work with is, you need to take advantages of whatever opportunities that you have. And that's what we're, trying to do is instill some positive messages into our youth. And we have some great probation officers that are working really hard with our youth and our families and, trying to make that happen for them. We are connected with a lot of services for youth and our family. For example, we work closely with the Marin County Office of Education. Our officers are in the schools weekly, if not daily, to meet with the teachers, to meet with the kids, to, again, not to catch them doing something wrong, but to help them along the way to make sure they're going to school, make sure they're getting their grades, and make sure they're behaving themselves and whatnot. We're also connected with therapeutic services, with community mental health. So we work closely with them because what we're finding is a lot of kids, have mental health issues. And it's not just about the behavior, but it's about whatever the mental health issue is. We do what we call wraparound services, whereas we almost literally wrap our kids and our families around with services, with probation, with community mental health, with whatever mentors, whatever program, agency, resource that we can bring to the table and say, this is what this family is in need of. We'll try to provide for them.
Darnell mentioned several issues impacting our youth. Mental health is one of them. Angela Arenas is a licensed mental health practitioner for Health and Human Services Community Mental Health Child Team.
What we try to do is really link all the services that are helping the families. So through wraparound, we contact all the providers that are currently involved, and that involves probation or the school. We try to really help the family access natural resources, which include either members of their family or friends or the community, people from their church. And so we meet as often as the family wants, and the goal is to really be able to provide them with the services that when we step out, that they still have that support within their community. And we also work with a family partner, with two actually, that one of them is bilingual and the other one is English speaking. And the goal is that they provide the parents with support, and they are parents who have had children in the system, and so they know very well how to navigate the school system and juvenile probation. And so it becomes a resource and an access for the families to have someone that advocates for them and that is able to understand their needs at that point. Currently, we serve about 40 children who are severely emotionally disturbed, who have mental health needs, and who, for some reason, because of their behavior, got involved with juvenile probation. So we really do take an interdisciplinary approach, and that means also that we are able to access services with our psychiatrists. So if we have a youth that is in need of being assessed for medication, we're able to provide them with that resource as well. One of the greatest things about our program is that we are able to provide the services wherever the family's at. And I think that a lot of times the families are expected to come into, for example, a therapy session, and they can't because they do not have transportation or it's just very difficult for them. So just being able for them to access the services within their home, we're able to do home visits, which I think it's an incredible gift a lot of times for the families, and it allows us to see really the dynamics within the home and the family functioning and in the language that they use. So being bilingual and having a few staff that are bilingual is a very, very good resource for the family.
Mike Daly has a closing thought for us.
I want people to know that they're getting a high level of service. We are following through with the highest national standards of evidence-based practices, adhering to those practices and programs, employing them in our department so you have an efficient use of taxpayer resources, and that we're providing comprehensive supervision into the community that reaches some of our mission statement about public safety.
Here are some resources to learn more about probation and the services our team offers. Thanks for watching Connect. I'm Sio Hernandez, reminding you to listen with all your senses, know your communities, and connect.